Hong Kong, one of the most vibrant and energetic places on the planet. 7 million people living and working in an area with twice as many skyscrapers as New York City and one of the world's busiest harbors. 600 miles away across the South China Sea, the peace and tranquility of Subic Bay on the west coast of the Philippines. And every 2 years, the Rolex China Sea Race brings these two regions together in Asia's premier offshore racing challenge. Now in its second century, the Royal Hong Kong Yacht Club has been the guardian of the Rolex China Sea Race for over 50 years, spearheading its growth from a club regatta to one of the world's true blue water classics.
This is a race that was first run in 1962 with 5 entries, and here we are 2016 with more than 30 entries, so that gives you a sense of how it's grown.
So this area here is quite littered with oil rigs, so we're hoping that the majority of the boats stay south of that area.
Yeah, the surge is going to go much further. This is, in my view, a classic blue water Category 1 race. One of the things that all the people who embark on this fully understand is the remoteness. Once we get a fair distance off Hong Kong, then we're pretty much a long way from any kind of land or rescue. So it's a pretty challenging race in respect of lots of light winds, lots of heavy winds. And I love a race where you start in the relatively cold and dreary north, but you finish in the sun.
The victory of the Chinese team Dongfeng in the Volvo Ocean Race Lake to Sanya in 2015 provided a massive wake-up call to the world of offshore racing. China had arrived. At this year's event, there are 2 teams from mainland China competing, Seawolf and, in their first race, U-Box.
This is actually the first time all the team members are working together, and hopefully everybody use this opportunity to share the experience and also learn from the experienced sailors, because for this team, the ultimate goal again is the end of this year's Sydney Hobart. So it's a learning opportunity for us this time.
当然影响很大了，非常大。我们开始在10年前开始环球的时候呢，是我们民间自发的一个活动。当时可能国内媒体的关注比较多一些。然后自从去年东风队参加沃尔环球赛以后，尤其来中国三亚做了一站以后，引起了国际媒体的广泛关注。
我非常骄傲能够参加劳力士杯的比赛，因为我们一共有2条船参加这次比赛，然后2条中国船队参加这次比赛，我们是其中之一。然后我们是一支全新的队伍，我们在之前可能除了一些人以外，我们都互相不了解对方，但是我相信我们会克服这种困难，然后我们会在这次比赛中取得更好的成绩。
Hong Kong is one of the world's most densely populated cities. But with more than 200 islands making up China's newest administrative region, the sea provides the challenge and escape many residents crave.
One of the real reasons why I actually took up sailing, I've only really been doing competitively for the last 7 years, is that I needed some kind of an escape. So many A-type people in Hong Kong that the best way for people to relax is to find a different form of pressure. So if you go out and you race intensely and focus just on the racing, on the wind and the teamwork, it pushes away all the intensities and difficulties of the week.
Anthony Root's 42-footer Black Baza is one of 3 Chinese-built yachts competing at this year's event and is focused on one thing: overall victory.
You only get a shot to do this once every 2 years, and very difficult race to win. And it's a huge achievement for not only for me personally, but for the team and for the campaign as a whole.
For the racing fleet, finding the quickest way south means deciding whether to go high or low of the run line, or most direct route, along the 565 miles race distance. The race is traditionally a combination of cold, punishing conditions in the north, giving way to warmer weather and lighter winds approaching the finish in Subic Bay, the Philippines. Before Hong Kong returned to Chinese control in 1997, it had been governed by Britain for 150 years, and it was said that the British had 2 great loves: sailing and horse racing. One lucky owner in this year's race has been able to combine both passions.
I've worked at the Jockey Club for 12 years. I look after all the facilities, including Sha Tin Racecourse and Happy Valley Racecourse. Hong Kong Jockey Club has a history of over 130 years, similar to the Yacht Club, both established in the late 1800s. I think if you take a taxi in Hong Kong, you'll see that on a Wednesday or on a weekend that the taxi driver is busy studying the form guide, and they're passionate about their racing. They love their racing. You need committed owners, whether it be for a racehorse or whether it be for a boat. You need the right team, and in our case, we've got a great team for the up-and-coming race. We've got Steve Ellis from Australia coming up to helm for us. We've got the Commodore on our boat. You need to really concentrate and do the preparation, and just like these horses are doing morning track work, we've had to get out and do practice sailing and be prepared for the race. Based on the weather forecast, we believe that the first 150 miles out to the rigs is going to be pretty tough going on the first night. I'll be on the bow for the trip down. I'm expected to be pretty wet. I think we'll be competitive, and we're going to give it our shot. This is my first Rolex China Sea Race, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Start day. Hong Kong's Victoria Harbour is wrapped in a cloak of mist, and the race's largest and most international fleet ever prepare to take on the South China Sea.
Rolex China Sea Race это, как я уже говорил, удивительное событие. Я горжусь, что мы участвуем в составе российской команды, представляем нашу страну, Россию, и мы постараемся сделать все, чтобы победить.
In the shadow of Hong Kong's iconic skyline, the 32-boat fleet struggles to find momentum. And it's the tide, not the wind, that sets the fleet on their way south. The race record of just under 48 hours to the Philippines looks unlikely to be under serious threat. But hard as it is to believe now, the forecast calls for strong and building northerlies by nightfall. And early frustration could soon be giving way to raw survival when the fleet hits the open sea. With the rain damping down the lightest of breezes, the fleet finally prepares to escape the channel and turn the corner, leaving Hong Kong behind. The Philippines' sole entry, Standard Insurance Centennial, maximizes its slender lead. Ahead, nearly 600 miles of isolation. With Hong Kong left behind, Standard Insurance Centennial's early lead soon evaporates as steadily the breeze builds. French multi-hull Mach 2 gains the advantage, and as night falls, brutal winds of over 30 knots take their toll. As morning comes, China's U-box survey the damage.
We broke the head of the main, and I think now the Chinese guys try to fix it, but I think 2 boats past kind of shy, it's not fixable.
Just 12 hours in, and their race could already be over.
现在我们从香港起航，大约在菲律宾的路上200海里的距离。我们昨天晚上经历了1晚的大风，30节左右的横风。今天早上8点的时候，我们的主帆的头部顶端断开。现在我们正在经历的抢修。如果不能抢修的话，我们会换上我们的暴风帆，继续驶向那个。
Just to the west of U-box, and Black Baza have made it through their first night with boat and crew largely unscathed.
Beautiful day 2 here, China Sea Race, Black Baza, yachting along at 26 knots of pressure. Pretty nice. Doing about 15 knots of boat speed. Loving life, ticking the miles off.
On board straight up, and Graham Tier is already learning why this race is one of Asia's toughest.
Just finished 30 hours the Rolex China Sea Race. It's been grueling, 3 metres plus swells, 35 knot winds, and we're 200 nautical miles into it. And
it's time for our rest before we go back on shift.
Last night was pretty interesting to say the least. We had all sorts of conditions and all sorts of sail combinations, so it made it quite challenging for the crew of the boat. But I'm happy to say the crew on the boat have survived it all, and we look forward to the next 300 miles.
6,000 miles away from the battering waves of the South China Sea, in the calm of the city of Oxford, England, the university's Bodleian Library is guardian to a unique piece of maritime history. An ancient map which proves beyond doubt that the Chinese seafaring tradition belongs not just to recent times, but dates back centuries.
The map came to the library with the bequest from a London lawyer called John Selden. This is why we call it the Selden map. And we received those books in 1659. The map's important for two reasons. The first is that it's the first map which is not really a map of China. The map is centered on the South China Sea, and that is its point. The second important point about the map is that it has sea routes on it with compass bearings going to all parts of the known world. Certainly, the map shows that in the early 17th century, there was a very big trade going on in the South China Sea. If you look at the map, if you look at the sea routes, particularly the one that starts just off the Guangdong coast, where Hong Kong now is, which terminates at Luzon in the Philippines, that is exactly the route taken by the Rolex China Sea Race. And it was first depicted on the Selden map nearly 400 years ago.
Despite the slowest of starts, the building breeze means remarkably the 16-year-old race record may now be in genuine danger. Mach 2 building her lead over Monohull Alive to nearly 35 miles. At 42 foot, only a miracle would see Black Bazza cross the line first, but she has her sights on a corrected time victory.
Well, we've been potentially staying high in order to position ourselves above a big hole that's down to the south. Number of the fleet's gone down south, and we're beginning to see dividends being paid because we are doing much faster than they are and getting to pull ahead. And the goal is to get to the coast, the pedal to the metal, get to the coast before we shut down, get into Subic before the winter comes.
Finally, we've got a bit of blue sky. We've had nothing but rain for the last two days, and it was absolutely bloody miserable out here. But things are looking up for a really nice finish into Subic Bay.
And Chinese entry U-Box at last hitting their stride.
今天是劳力士杯比赛第3天，我们距离终点线大概还有160海里的距离。昨天晚上我们在修好了那个主帆之后，我们继续前进，保持到现在这个状况。到风力开始从昨晚开始一直下降，到现在已经变成10节左右。我们现在风会一直往左边摆，所以我们会沿着这个风力一直往前跑，然后在前面做一个顺风换旋，之后直接到终点。
The Chinese revolution in sailing has not just been taking place on the water. 200 miles away from Hong Kong in China's Guangdong province, Australian boat builders McConaughey have been developing a manufacturing capability that aims to turn China into the newest sailing superpower.
When we first came to Zhuhai, China, there wasn't really a boating culture nor even much manufacturing of any yachts. We stepped into some very high-tech boats on day one. I employed virtually straight away 50 staff. So that means that I had 50 first-year apprentices. Now we're almost 10 years into it. The skill level is here, the passion is here to manufacture quality. They're easily equivalent to any boat builder in the world. Yachting in general is definitely going to grow within China. It's just at what speed. Within the next 10 years, there's a new generation coming through. I can see it even within our factory. And that generation is more outgoing, more outdoors, and that's where I see the market expanding quite quickly.
This year's Rolex China Sea Race fleet is a perfect showcase for the ambition of China's fledgling boat-building industry. Both Mills 41 Ambush and the Kerr 42 Black Bazza were built at McConaughey's.
Anthony Root engaged with us maybe 18 months before we started manufacturing his boat. He wanted to push the upper end of that 40-foot range. He wanted a very powerful, fast boat, and he came to us for the manufacture. It's very important for the Black Bear from our perspective to do well. Our boats are at the top or winning yachts, then it gets our name out there even more.
With less than 50 miles to the finish, Mac 2 head into the coast hoping to pick up more breeze, while Alive elect to stay offshore. But the French multi-hull quickly sees its advantage evaporate, as within a matter of hours, the 30-mile difference between the two boats has swung in the monohull's favour. Australia's Alive hold their nerve, and not only take the line honours win, but break the race record by 12 minutes.
It's been a wonderful experience. Everyone's loved it. They're all over the moon, as you would be. It's a tough race. I mean, any race is a tough race when you're giving it your all. We didn't actually think that we had broken a record, so that's wonderful. We're stoked.
The infamous Luzon Hole, the often windless area around the Philippine coast, fails to materialize as the chasing pack approach the finish. With the breeze holding strong, it promises to be a tight run-in for the boats fighting for that final podium place.
我们现在就在那个苏比克湾的拐角之外。现在我们的风力比之前的天气预报的风力要好很多。之前天气风暴，我们现在应该是大概15节的风，现在我们一直是20多节的顺风下来，我们的船速也达到了23节。在大概1个小时之内，我们应该就可以冲破终点线。所以船员们都比较兴奋，现在没有人值班了，都在上面没有人睡觉了，都在上面值班。
And it's KLC Bengal 7 from Japan who win the battle for third on the water. It's a triumphant homecoming too for Philippine entry Standard Insurance Centennial. Just over 2 hours later, and Black Baza crosses the line to win on corrected time. A nearly faultless race that has seen a Chinese-made yacht win the overall race title for the first time ever.
It's a terrific race. Just about every offshore, there's a point along the way where you say, why am I doing this? I'm never going to do it again. It's cold, there are walls of water coming over. You have to get up and watch, and you're tired, you're hungry, but then everything, the plan comes together and everything comes right, and you build up such great camaraderie with the team, and a lot of fun, and it's a very special experience.
And for Swan 82 U-Box from China, a top 10 finish. But overcoming the adversity of that first night with a largely untested crew gives perhaps greater satisfaction.
我们的船员们其实也是需要新的磨合，但是我们在比赛过程中做得非常好。最后的10几海里非常的艰难，因为风的变化非常大。我们尽全力的用0号帆、用大前帆、用缩帆、升帆来调整。 以获得最快的速度来冲过终点线。当然，这个比赛也是非常累的，因为我们经历了3天的红风，加上30节的红风，加上30节的顺风，但是我们做得非常好，我们完成了比赛。
The Subic Bay that greets the arriving yachts still retains its centuries-old link with the sea. Traditionally, it was fishing that provided many with their livelihoods. But during the last 100 years, Subic Bay's strategic location gave it a significance that reached far beyond its shores. Throughout the 1960s, 70s and beyond, Subic Bay was home to the United States' largest naval base and the focal point for its operations in the South China Sea.
My name is Joe Gross. I was a Senior Chief Petty Officer in the United States Navy. I was a P-3 flight engineer, 24 years of service at QB Point, Subic Bay here in the Philippines. South China Sea was just chock full of ships almost all the time. We never had a slow day out there. We used to fly 200 feet off the water, and always in the aircraft there's potential of something going wrong in the airplane and having to actually ditch into the sea. Hopefully the plan was ditch near a ship if you can get picked up, but also there's atolls and islands out there that you could possibly wash up on and survive.
Just inland from the beaches of Subic Bay live the Ita, a jungle-dwelling people whose unique knowledge would be so vital to the Americans.
The squadron would send some people to jungle survival school. And we had ITA instructors in the course. These people had grown up in the jungle, they lived there their whole lives. They knew how to survive in the jungle.
Maala chaon kat dahil akati kami haloob ang Subic Bay na tinangkilik o sinuportahan kami ang American o ada so US Navy and Marine.
They taught us how to shave the bamboo, make a fire. They showed us some vines that you could cut open and be a source of water. They taught us how to make some utensils, some little spoons, taught us how to snare a wild chicken and then strip it and cook it, as well as the big array of bugs that everybody talks about. I felt extremely confident that no matter what they did to me, I would survive in the jungle.
Morning of day 4, and the wind begins to soften in Subic Bay, making the last few miles of the race a test of patience as well as skill for the crews. Finishing first in their class, China's Seawolf. And for Graham Tier and the rest of the team on Straight Up, a creditable finish after nearly 3 days of tough offshore competition. Just behind them, Russian entry Megazip, who take the final podium place in their division and become the first Russian yacht to finish the race in event history.
Rolex China Sea Race — это было удивительный рейс, очень интересный, очень сложный, непростой. Было очень сложно. 2 дня был дождь, сильный ветер, 30 узлов. На финише мы стояли тоже несколько часов. Мы пытались быть первыми, но мы узнаем чуть позже, кто выиграл, а кто нет.
What a great experience. It's my first offshore race. One of the toughest things I've done in my sporting career, actually. Great bunch to sail with and had a really good time. So I think I'll be looking forward to another event like this.
This year's Rolex China Sea Race has been truly historic, a new course record. And with the victory of Hong Kong-based and Chinese-built Black Baza, definitive proof that in the China of the new millennium, sailing has truly reached a new horizon. Next time on the Spirit of Yachting, we're back in the Mediterranean to experience the beauty and the drama of the Geralia Rolex Cup.